Shaboy,
There it is.
it's your boy.
That's it.
It's your
We are live
boy.
and direct.
It's your boy.
Boys in the
Oh
house.
yeah. Oh yeah. Hey, if you don't know it yet, we're gonna get straight into this. I am Kirk M. Samuels,
That's right. And I am Jason B. Kendrick.
and we are the madmen of masculinity, baby.
That's right. We're just real men having real conversations for you. And tonight, it's a doozy and a half. Fasten your seatbelts. Put your tray tables up in their full upright positions. And yeah, get ready. Because we're talking about red flags, green flags. We might even talk about some red light, green light, yellow light.
Dude,
Oh,
the
yeah.
trivia part is I was like, man, I forgot what we talking about here today, man. I'm just, how I do. I'm just looking down, hitting share on the video. You know what I'm saying? I'm sharing
Yes,
it.
sir.
You know what I'm saying? Sharing it. Speaking of which, if you listen to this bad boy, if you're live, if you're watching us live right now, you'll know because it'll say we're live. If you go to the Mad Men of Masculinity page, even though I shared it on mine, and he's probably going
Yes.
to share it, if you go to the Mad Men of Masculinity page on Facebook, you can comment there, and we'll see the comments live. And as a matter of fact, he'll probably throw them up on the screen if you want to do that. But
Yes,
if you're
sir. I
watching
made
us later on in history, especially if you're watching us,
the
on
YouTubes.
social medias, hit share, hit like, and all that kind of stuff. If
Yes.
you're on the YouTubeage, watch Will Smith that subscribe button, man. It don't cost you nothing, and
Uh,
it'll help us kind of grow what we doing, man. Just hit that subscribe button, man, and like that bad boy and share and all that kind of stuff, man.
and make
Get that
comments
out of
and
the
let
way.
us know what you want us to
Let us
talk
know,
about because
you
we
know.
always we have all kinds of things to talk about, but like
Mhm.
tonight. But if you have something specifically you want us to address,
Yeah.
we will be happy to do that.
Yeah,
We,
and
we're, we're
if
we're
you
here for the
disagree,
people.
if you disagree, if
Oh,
you
please tell
agree,
us.
if you think we cray cray, if you think we stupid, we idiots, we don't know what we're talking about, we're okay with that too. We'll just
Yes.
Will Smith you at some point. You better watch it. No, I'm kidding.
Mm,
I don't play like that, but unless you come, I might.
yeah.
I don't want to put nothing past me, but anyhow. But yeah, man. I mean, let us know what you think. But like I said, Mad Men and Masculinity page on Facebook. You can comment live if you're watching us live here. We would love to hear what you think, man. So anyhow, break it down. You started to go into it. I said I don't even want to know. I don't even want to know. I want to come at it raw and organic as to what we're talking about today and where
Yes.
we going with this whole thing, man. You tell me.
So in honor of the new book coming out, the 7 Secrets of Modern Dating, which is right behind us over here. Wait, oh no, that way, right there. We're talking about red flags, green flags, as far as dating, as far as looking for a partner, things to look for while you're dating. If you're new to the dating scene, you're getting out there, things you want to be aware of during the interview phase or the vetting process. And first off,
Hey, speaking of being aware of, I'm aware that you got a brand new microphone, man. I'm aware that you got a
yes,
Yeti, man.
sir.
You rolling like that. You know what I'm saying? You coming in
we-
with the headphones,
We're,
the
we're getting more
microphones.
professional.
You know what
We're
I'm
getting
saying?
we're getting more legit up in
Yeah.
here. Too legit to quit.
Hey, you never know where this thing might go, man. You never know.
I
Just
know
saying.
things happen. So what are you since you're coming at this live and direct and fresh without any real thought and processing? Because I told you I've been listening to the Unplugged Alpha on the Red Flags chapter. I was listening to the Tactical Guide to Women. I've been listening to the Robert Glover, the author of No More Mr. Nice Guy, his Nice Guy's Guide to Dating and all that. And there's a lot of things that we, especially as nice guys, in the dating world do wrong. And one of the main things is we ignore red flags. We don't spend enough time vetting potential partners. So as for you, as a man coming in fresh off the street, what are some of the red flags, things that you've learned over your lifetime that you really need to you would like to save other men time as they get into the dating world about these are things you definitely need to look for?
Wow. You talking about it now. I'm a female loving, I'm a heterosexual male. So
Hmm.
obviously, I'm speaking from a male to a female perspective. Um, I would say, and I've been married, a couple times, divorced. I've been, just straight single, doing nothing. I've done over the course of the years online dating. I've done the not online dating. I've done the, just going out meeting people, social thing, and all that kind of stuff. So I've kind of had a whole lot of experiences, and man, I think hindsight being 2020. Again, this is off the top of my head here. I think looking back, something that would be a red flag to me is is a woman that presents herself with masculine energy. And I
Mhm.
say that because, and not every guy, kind of leans towards kind of the masculine side of the equation, which is okay in terms of kind of how you roll in your dynamic, but if you are kind of on that side of the equation, and that has nothing to do with sexuality or sexual preference, that's just, kind of the way you flow in relationships and that sort of thing. Um, but for me, one of the biggest red flags, and even now, even in a non-dating, I'm not available at this point, but even in a non-dating kind of setting, something that really turns me off is when I see a woman that just presents masculine, like the domineering and the gotta take charge and the gotta control and you know gotta jump straight to the whatever, that kind of stuff is really just it's a huge turnoff for me, man, just in any kind of way. I mean, I just get kind of itchy when I'm in that kind of space, and I really tend to, if you're ever around me and if you're a woman and you wonder, if I ever get quiet around you, if I ever get like a little bit standoffish or
And
quiet.
Kirk doesn't get quiet often,
No,
so
but if I ever do, then that's a good indication that I'm picking up that vibe. So for me, number
Mhm.
one, I would say, in terms of a woman, it would be that whole masculine vibe. I got a couple more off the top of my head, but I'll
Mhm.
stick there with number one. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, the masculine vibe is definitely a thing. I think for me, you'll probably have to be toxic femininity, which
Mm,
nowadays is really a big thing because what tends to be happening now, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that, we talked about with nice guy syndrome and everything, men leaving the homes, and now we have single mothers raising their sons and daughters who may or may not be happy with their ex. They may be subscribing to the feminist narrative, which is interesting because the feminist narrative actually, especially the toxic feminist narrative, not the healthy feminist narrative that started out, but where it's gone, is now turning women away from their natural femininity towards a more masculinity, a more masculine energy. And not only are they turning to a more masculine energy, but now then they're also kind of getting that mindset that, oh, men are privileged and it's a patriarchy. And so they're already hateful or they have some sort of hang up towards men. And so you get in, you would try to talk to these women or you try to date these women. It's, I mean, you talk about an uphill battle. It's constant. Just you're always wrong. And
mhm,
so when if you are out dating, and there are some cues, a lot of the toxic feminists are, short haired, brightly colored, not all of them, but it's something to look for because sometimes these are signs that this lady, and especially if she comes at you with a lot of the feminist narratives of, oh, the patriarchy, things like that, these are red flags to pay attention to because if she's got that mindset, then she's not looking for a masculine man. She's looking to basically rule the roost and be in charge and be the one in control. And if that's what you're into, fine.
mhm.
But if you are a masculine man wanting to have a more balanced relationship with you being in your masculine and her being her feminine, that may not be the right partner for you or the right person for you to be dating.
Yeah. And I see you out there, Miss Teresa. I see you, tomorrow, quote, quiet. Yeah. Um, I can get quiet, not around you because I'm not talking about you, but there's other people that, but yeah, I mean, rarely am I quiet ever. But yeah,
Well,
that's
that's the
kind of,
point. If Kurt gets quiet around you, something's up. That's a red
I'm
flag
just,
right there.
it's just to me, when I say repulsive, I'm not talking like judgment in terms of good or bad. I'm just talking literally like, polarities kind of, two positives kind of repel each other. If you take magnets that are both positive, you can't push them together. And so, or both negatives or whatever. So to me, my polarity kind of gets a little off in those cases. And so, yeah, so for me, and a lot of that, and that has nothing to do with profession, that has nothing to do with, success or any of that kind of stuff. That has nothing to do with being career driven. That has nothing to do with, it really doesn't have anything to do with looks. There's a lot of very,
Mhm.
what would be considered feminine looking women that it's, to me, it's a mask for, kind of, to your point, the toxic femininity that I think we beginning to see. And so that would actually kind of be a red flag of, you know, of just that succubus, that kind of that really dark feminine energy that becomes so dark feminine that it becomes masculine. And I think those, women that I've met like that end up becoming the toxic masculinity that they hate because
Yep.
they're so kind of wrapped up in that. And to me, that's a sign of being wounded and
Mhm.
having open wounds that they haven't had healing. So that'd be a second one of somebody that is presenting as wounded without the healing. Without, I mean, you can have a scar. I got a scar on my forehead. It's when I
Yeah.
ran into a trash dumpster, but it ain't bleed no more because it's healed. And so you can be scarred, but wounded is a totally different thing. And so somebody that's still wounded, somebody that still talks really hatred and venomous about their
Mhm.
ex, and they still have all the emotion wrapped up and all that kind of stuff. And I ain't got time for that. Let me know when you're done healing from all that, because I don't want you bleeding all over me with your wound.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's part of almost the number one red flag is, daddy issues. If you're attempting to talk to a woman or you're having conversation with her in the vetting process and she doesn't have a good relationship with her father, or her father's, not in the home, or there's animosity towards him. Well, he's her model for masculinity. He's her model for a man.
Hmm.
And so naturally, she will start to put you in that role if you're dating her. And so if she doesn't have a healthy relationship with her father and hasn't
Hmm.
healed that wound, now, if she's somebody who's done the work, and that's one of the things I wanted to bring up pretty early too. So it's good we're talking about it now. A red flag can become a green flag, can become a green light if she's done the work, because somebody who has done the work to heal their past trauma, they're now more aware. They become
Hmm.
more open-minded, they become more conscientious. And those are the people, especially if you're doing the work on yourself, are the ones that you would might want to consider, because yeah, they can talk about their past traumas in an inlined intellectual way without all of the energy behind it, with all the hatred. And someone like that will be more capable because they've worked on themselves to help in the relationship. So they're not
Hmm.
putting it all on you, which is another one of the red flags. When it's all about you, there's no accountability. You made
Yeah.
me feel, you did this to me, not about what they did. They're not holding any accountability. And this goes for men or women. This
Hmm.
isn't just about, we're not going to be just bashing women or anything like that. This
Hmm.
is definitely a men's channel. And we'll be
Hmm.
talking mainly about, if you're a man in the dating pool, what to look for. But
Hmm.
when it comes to lack of accountability, that goes both ways.
Yeah, and I think Teresa makes a good point that that women kind of end up taking on these roles and end up taking on these kinds of things because of life circumstances and because of those, and I think that's a valid point. That being said, at some point you don't have to be that, and if you don't want to be that, you can put that down at some point. I tell women, if you want a masculine man, you have to stop being a masculine man. At some point you need to put that down. There's one steering wheel, right? And if you're driving because there's nobody driving, then cool, so be it. That being said, when you want to invite somebody into your life, and most women that are kind of in that space don't want to be, and they would rather having a healthy, whole, leading kind of man come in and take that burden from them, hold up that space, then at some point you have to step out of that. At some point you got to recognize, okay, I got to put the armor down, I got to put the sword down. There's a difference between a warrior and a soldier. A
Mhm.
soldier wears a uniform, but a warrior is in the battle. So a soldier can go into battle and become a warrior, but at some point when the battle's over, when the fight's over, at some point the warrior has to come back, take off the body armor, take off the helmet, put down the M16 or the M4, whatever it is, and to go back to being, a peacetime, a peacetime role. So I think, when people present in these what we call, red flags, that yeah, absolutely doesn't mean they're stuck. That means life for some reason put them that way. I can say because my father was an alcoholic and a drug addict and he was abusive to my mom, well then my environment made me that. And so if I become
Mhm.
that, okay, that's great, but at some point I got to say, is that who I want to be? And if not, then I need to choose to be something else.
That's a good point. I mean, we all are presented with different situations, whether it's upbringing, environments, parents, lack of parents, toxicity or whatnot as we're growing up. However, if you're still a victim of that, big red flag, whether man, woman, or not. If you're trying to date somebody and they're still have holding a lot of animosity and anger and hatred, but they haven't worked through that, huge
Mm-hmm.
red flag. Because what's going to happen is they're going to work through that with you. You're going to become the enemy.
Yeah.
They're going to love you, love bomb on you initially, and everything's going to be amazing. And then late down the road, all of a sudden, it's going to start chipping away. And they're going to be
Mm-hmm.
looking at you to be the one to either heal them or to vent their stuff on.
Yeah.
And most of us don't have time for that. I ain't got time for that. If
No,
you've
me
done the
neither. I
work,
mean, yeah, I,
do
I,
the
I,
work.
I don't do the work, man. You're right, man. You got to do the work, man. You got to be willing to, you got to be willing to do all that self healing. I don't want to come in and have to fight for leadership. I'm going to come in and I'm going to be as whole as possible. I'm going to come in expecting to be the house, the structure, the space holder, all those kinds of things. And at the same time, if you're not ready to be the home, if you're not ready to be, the decoration and the beauty and the peace about all that, there's a difference in a house and a home. If you're not ready to be the home, then I'm not available to be your house.
Yeah.
And vice versa. So yeah, I mean, but all that takes doing the work.
Well, and that just comes back to accountability. I mean, if we're gonna jump off of red flags for man, look at green flags. Three main green flags in a partner, whether man or woman, but this is kind of specifically for women, for guys to look for, is clarity, stability, and accountability. And so you want the itties, you want the illities. You don't want the
Mhm.
isms. You don't
Mhm.
want the bipolar isms or the
Yeah,
the narcissisms or
yeah.
um, any of these things that may be a negative. You want somebody who can be clear with what they want. So if she's passive aggressive and saying things like, "Well, if you don't know, I'm not going to tell you," or if she gets mad at you and instead of talking to you about it, she's making posts on Facebook looking for the next guy.
Mhm.
That's a big red flag.
Yeah.
If she's stable and not constantly in drama. I mean, we know women are emotional beings. There's going to be some drama. It's going to happen. But if it's every day, even twice a week, might be something to look at. That there's not a lot of stability there. It's too much up and down. And accountability. Is she accountable to her actions? There's a lot of victim mindset people, man or woman out there that are no longer accountable to their actions. They're a victim of their situation or their parents or their upbringing, and so they're not being held accountable or not holding themselves accountable
Mhm.
to, well, I made these decisions and these decisions led to these outcomes, but it ain't my fault.
Yeah.
Red flag, run away.
Yeah. Understanding that femininity in its fullness is fluid. It's a cloud kind of thing. And so understanding as a man, when you get into the presence of femininity, yeah, you don't want somebody that's bipolar, but you got to understand that there's going to be that fluidity. There's going to be the shifting of the back and forth, the waves and the winds and the vicissitudes of life and all those kinds of things. Those are going to happen as part of the relationship. And we, as a structure holding, space holding man, have got to give her the freedom and the acceptance to be that when she is that. If it's that all the time, I think, back to your point, but we also have to understand that part of the beauty of her femininity, just like outside nature is feminine. Well, it's constantly changing. It's constantly fluid. We got to check the weather every day. You can ask, if I say it out loud, it's going to talk back. Alexa. You can ask that, what's the weather tomorrow, to find out what you got to wear. How to prepare. And so we as men also have to love them even when they're in that space and allow them to be that when they are that. Again, big difference between allowing the ebb and flow versus the chaos of, like, it is no peace ever. I mean, that's kind of the huge difference.
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to the riverbanks and the river analogy that we use quite a bit. The masculine is supposed to be the riverbanks, so we're the frame. We allow for there to be room for the feminine to flow within, but we also add a boundary. And I think it's one of the things that men we are lacking a lot, especially in relationships nowadays, is we don't know how to set healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
And so we get run over, and you get all the tests, you get all the S tests from the ladies testing you, and we
Mm-hmm.
don't know how to necessarily handle those tests, and so we tend to get run over, and then she loses respect for us. And that's one of the big three that we need as men in relationships is respect. If we don't feel respected, we don't feel in our masculine, we lose that frame and that structure that is needed, because we both need each other, masculine and feminine. We need each other to be healthy, to set boundaries for each other, because we know there's tons of ladies out there like, if I wasn't there, he'd be dead because he's doing all this
Mm-hmm.
stupid stuff. Well, that's what we need for you, as men to women. We need you to be sometimes that voice of reason, where very much the same, we as men, because we're the logical linear thinkers, need to be the voice of reason for our ladies, to
Mm-hmm.
help them hold that space and set a boundary. So it's like, well, that's too far. If we
Mm-hmm.
don't set any kind of boundaries, then we just get run over in life. And that goes for anything, whether it's relationships or work or whatnot. You got to be strong enough and stable enough within yourself
Yeah.
as a man to set those boundaries and hold to them. because that's
Yeah.
just part of the feminine nature. They're going to test your boundaries, and so if you don't hold to them, then she's going to lose respect for you, and that's on
Yeah.
you. That's part of the accountability for you as a man.
And that's the whole idea of holding space. That's the whole idea of being structure. That's not a domineering kind of thing. That's a okay, I'm willing to make choices and decisions. If you ask me which shoes look better, I'm willing to say if those look better. Or, if it comes down to making plans for something, I'm willing to say, you know what, I got the plan. We're doing this, we're doing that, and you know what, here's what you wear. Like I got a plan for Sunday. Here's how you need to dress. And that, I mean, and here's the time that you need to be ready by kind of, but otherwise I got it. So we need to be able to hold those things up. So, hey, can we pivot?
Yeah.
Because sometimes we have things to offer to women, right? So I wonder if we, for a couple of minutes here, we can kind of throw out some red flags and green flags in terms of what women should be looking for in men.
Oh, absolutely.
What do you think?
I think starting off, what is a man's relationship with his mother? It's just a flip
Mm,
flop. What is his relationship with his mother? Does he honor her? Does he cherish her? Is he angry at her? Does he hold venom towards her? That may indicate how he may treat you in the future.
mm,
Or what is his relationship to his father? Did he have a father? Does he have a healthy masculine influence? Or is he the
mm,
nice guy? These are
mm,
all red flags, and this comes from that, those first date questions, those vetting times when you're having coffee or drinks, getting to know somebody. We have 2 years in one mouth. Use them,
mhm,
proportionately.
mhm,
Listen and
mhm.
ask questions on both sides because you're not looking to find another project. You're looking to find somebody that you can work with.
Yeah.
And so, what is their family like? What is their relationship like to exes? Are they still friendly? Are they very much, and both men and women, if you talk about their exes and it's all the ex's fault and they had no accountability for themselves, that's a big red flag.
Mhm, mhm.
What do you think, sir?
Yeah. I think either it's a thing, however you want to look at it, from both sides, red flag, green flag. If a man has no other men in his life, that's a huge red flag. If a man has other men in his life, that's a huge green flag. We as men, it takes a man to make a man, and it takes men to help reinforce a man's man, right? And so if he lives isolated and doesn't have a circle of men in his life, then that is a huge, to me, like, whoa, okay, I need to stop, because that probably means that he doesn't have healthy reinforcement of all the things that he wants to be. He doesn't have, I don't really like the word accountable. I like Chris Nasky's whole thing of holding somebody capable. He doesn't
Yeah.
have people that'll support him in everything that he's capable of. He doesn't have anybody supporting him in his visions and his missions and his drive and all these other kind of things, a support system. He needs to have other men in his life. If he's a loner, then that's not a good sign. That's not a good look. And along with that is, how has he done with his wounds? Most
Mhm.
men, way more than 51 out of 100, probably upwards of 90 something out of 100 men have some kind of a father wound, right? Either the father was absent from the home, absent in the home, he was abusive, or he set such a high bar that the son could never please him. So most men have one of those four wounds. How has he done with working on that wound? What does that narrative look like? Both of our fathers are long gone, right? You know, and so part of our healing comes from not even being able to go back to them and to heal it full circle. We got to do that healing, but all that comes back to, what does his man circle look like?
Yeah. I mean, I think going back to the work too, is this person working on themselves? Or are
Mm-hmm.
they looking for you to heal them? Are they looking for you to come and save them? Nobody needs a savior. They may need support, but
Mm-hmm.
not saving. We can all
Mm-hmm.
do our own work if we're willing to do the work, if we're willing to reach out and ask for help.
Yeah.
If they're not, then that may fall on you. I mean,
Yeah.
we had this whole thing with Dave Glazer about my favorite first date question is, how aware of you of your past traumas and what are you doing to heal them before you put that
Mm-hmm.
stuff on me?
Yeah.
And there are ways to ask that question that don't sound so harsh, but you basically want to find out what that is. Are they
Yeah.
doing their work? There are very few people. We're in a big shift. We're in a big paradigm shift now from survival to, we're not role mates anymore. We're not filling these roles of, you're the woman, you cook and clean and take care of the kids, I'm the man, I go make the money, da da da. Now we're in a complete shift where we're not in survival mode anymore. Now can get back to a soulmate, where are we compatible as soulmates? Do we complete each other in what we're trying to build? But how are you going to know that if you're not doing your work? And so both sides, men and women, are they doing their work, and can they communicate that effectively?
Man, I love the way you say that, man. It's not so much about being a role mate, it's about being a soulmate. And it's that yin and that yang, how do we come together, and it's not about completion. The yin and the yang are complete, right? Already. But when we come together, we're whole. We can actually multiply. When you multiply fractions, you get a fraction. When you multiply whole numbers, you get a whole number, right? And so it's about multiplicity of each other. And how do we do that together? I don't care who makes more. I mean, quite honestly, nowadays, shoot, it's hard to really advance financially and economically, socioeconomically, without two incomes. If you want to buy a home in most cities, it's like a starter home, I can't leave, and so, those kind of things are really huge. And I think what you just said, man, really circles back to, what does his healing circle look like? And it should look like living life with, a bunch of men. I love the B-men guys that we hang out with, man. I had one of them in my house today, man. I just, whatever. I mean, I love having a guy like you in my life, man. We doing life together. We got stuff that we ain't even talking about yet, that we got, visions and all that kind of stuff together.
Irons in the fire, things going on. I mean,
we got stuff, man. We about to, it's about to get real up in this piece. But all that comes back from his healing circle is in his man circle. And if he doesn't have a man circle, he doesn't have a healing circle. He doesn't have a purpose, a vision circle. He doesn't have any of those kind of things that reinforces all of the things that a good man is. And yeah, that work that he's doing is huge, man. And it comes in circles of men.
Yeah. Well, since we did talk about a little bit of red flags on both sides, I want to kind of give a short list of things, just to, we're not going to go too deep into it. We don't have that much more time, but things like, daddy issues, father wounds, toxic femininity, toxic masculinity, if he's overly MGTOW, or one of these guys that's been forced to be celibate because he doesn't know how to talk to women. That might be somebody to avoid. Violence. If I don't care if it's playful or not, men, women, if there's violence, if they're a violent person, run. Because even if they just start playing around, that's gonna escalate as you move forward. So competition. This is not a competition. We're not getting into a relationship to compete with each other. So if your partner's trying to compete with you, especially if it's woman to a man, then she doesn't respect you, and she's trying to dominate the relationship. So if there's fun competition, fun if you're playing a game, but if she wants to beat you in income, or she wants to take over your roles, those competitive things, that's not going to be a healthy, balanced, harmonious relationship. You're not going to have that yin and yang. Extreme jealousy, that's something to be very aware of. If she doesn't know, or you don't know your own attachment styles or love languages, if they're just ignorant, then this is somebody you're going to have to school and teach. Are you prepared for that? Is that something you want to do, or is this somebody that's just not ready? Addictions. If they have some addictions, shopping, alcoholism, drugs, social media, porn, something like that, these are things to be aware of. I mean, if something you've dealt with and you feel like you want a guide, fine. But if that's not, if it's not a hell yeah, it's a no. And there's, I mean, the book I was researching today, he just listed 20. We could probably go into the hundreds when it comes to red flags and green flags. But these are things that, when you're lonely and you're dating and you've been isolated and you get out in the world, it's hard, or it's hard to look for these, and it's really easy to ignore them. So for your own safety, for the benefit of the other person as well, pay attention. And if they're not for you, they're not for you. It's not good, bad, right, or wrong. It's no personal indictment. It's just not a fit.
And I think for me, lining up on the runway here, bringing this thing in for a landing, I think, one surprising green flag that I think women should tune into is a man with a past. What? a man with a past who's been through that, been there, done that, who has a story. Every superhero has a sad backstory, every single one of them. And so a guy that has a backstory, but has made it through some stuff and has been there and done that, you don't want the knight in the shining armor, because that guy has never been in a battle. You want a guy with some dents in his armor that has been through some fights, because ladies, you want him to fight that dragon that keeps you trapped in the tower, right? That thing that you struggle with. You want him to fight that dragon and take that dragon out for you on a daily basis. Well, if he's never been in a fight, if he's the pretty guy, the guy that checks all the boxes and all that kind of stuff and looks good on social media and helps you be the narcissist that you really want to be and all that kind of stuff, that's not the guy that's not lasting. You want a guy that man, he's got some, he's got some stuff in his past, and he knows how to get down with life and the battles and struggles with life. And so don't run away from all that kind of stuff. Again, I'm talking stuff in his past, stuff that he's dealt with, not stuff that he's actively dealing with addiction. Like he's still in that thing and he's still hooked on that thing and all that kind of stuff. Or he, just got out of prison, or, he's got a felony because he killed a dozen people or something like that. I don't know. Maybe those are some things but a guy with a past that has been there, done that, that's the kind of stuff that, like I said, it may not look good on a social media timeline, but that's the kind of guy that's going to stick it out left and right, especially if he can be open and honest with that from a vulnerability perspective. So I think that's kind of where I land on this runway here.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. That goes back to turning the red flags into green flags. If this is somebody who's had a past, man or woman, and they've done the work to heal that, then they've learned and they've grown. And this is somebody you can learn and grow with, because now they have a new vocabulary, they have new experiences, they've worked through their traumas, and this is somebody you can work with. There's there's things, they have a better communication skill set. And
they can be
huge.
real. They can be, they look in the mirror and they say, yeah, I ain't perfect. I mean, that those kind of people they know their flaws, right? They know their downfalls. They know their drug of choice. They know all that kind of stuff. And so,
that's part of being a whole human. Yeah, that's part of being a whole human. When you can embrace and your shadow side, when you realize that you are the best of the best and the worst of the worst, and it's all rolled into one, and it's all about where your mind's at, where your focus is, and you can talk about those things with some clarity and some intellect and without any emotion. That means, wisdom is the experience without the emotion. That means you've done the work. And if you were meeting somebody like that, they have a past, they've done the work, they can talk about those things without being triggered. This is somebody that's got tools in a toolbox to work with.
So I think that's a surprising huge green flag, especially for women, because quite often women, you ain't gonna find a car with you ain't gonna find a 40-year-old car with no miles on it and no dents and dings. It just don't. And if you do, that's a huge red flag. Somebody that presents with none of that kind of stuff, right? And so that's when you say, all right, this car is a 1985 Datsun, whatever, and you mean to tell me this thing only got 3,000 miles on it and no dents and no dings? Like, okay,
it means they haven't been driven.
You need to check the title on that bad boy. So anyhow, that's good stuff, man. I appreciate you, JBK, and
appreciate you.
I love you to death, man. And I see you representing over there with the fancy microphone. I ain't got the budget like you do.
What you talking about?
Budget, man. I'm working on that thing, man.
Well, joys of being single.
I'm gonna step it up at some point, man. I'm gonna step it up. So thank you, Teresa. I appreciate you. We appreciate you. I love you. I mean, you've been a pivotal person in my life. Thank you for being in the stream today and providing your input and your feedback. I mean, you're one of the best people I know, and you know how much I appreciate you. So anyhow, JBK, I love you, man, and I appreciate you too, brother.
Kirkham Samuels, to all of you, we're out. Peace. See you next time.
Out.